Yes, at approximately 8:45 last night, 32-year-old fugitive David Morse was captured by Missoula police after hiding inside an apartment complex on Old Fort Road. The pursuit began when Morse was confronted at a local motel by U.S. Marshals and the Missoula Police Department. He fled in a vehicle which crashed on Dixon Street. Morse then fled on foot and was able to evade officers for most of the day. Missoula Police Sergeant Jerry Odlin has more.
Mr. Morse fled the scene and was able to elude officers by hiding out in yards and houses, etc. At approximately 8:30 on Wednesday night, officers were notified that a resident in the area had discovered Mr. Morse in their house in the 2300 block of Harv and had scared him out of the house.
The resident called 911 and Missoula police continued the pursuit to a motel complex on Old Fort Road where Morse attempted to hide yet again.
Our canine was sent into the area as officers from the Missoula Police Department, Montana Probation and Parole, and the U.S. Marshals Service were combing the area. They noticed a person underneath one of the bridges over the water feature, and it was determined it was Mr. Morse, where he was taken into custody without event.
Morse is currently in the Missoula County Jail on $150,000 bond. He'll be appearing in Missoula District Court at 10 this morning and then in Missoula Justice Court at 2:30. A man whose conviction for a 1994 murder west of Helena was overturned last week has been released from the prison infirmary in Lewistown. Department of Corrections spokeswoman Judy Beck says 64-year-old Paul Jenkins was released Tuesday night. He'll be living with his daughter. District Judge Kathy Seeley on Friday overturned the convictions and ordered new trials for Jenkins and 56-year-old Freddie Joe Lawrence. In the death of Donna Marr, she ordered their release earlier this week. Lawrence walked out of the prison on Tuesday afternoon. The Montana Innocence Project worked on their cases. A recent test on a rope found at the murder scene included DNA that matches convicted killer David Wayne Nelson. The Attorney General's office requested a status hearing in 6 weeks, by which point they expect to decide whether or not to refile those charges. The Missoula City County Health Department has confirmed yesterday there are 6 confirmed cases of E. coli contamination that are linked to a multi-state outbreak associated with romaine lettuce from the Yuma, Arizona area. Environmental health specialist Alicia Johnson said 2 of the 6 cases have occurred right here in western Montana.
We do have 6 confirmed cases in the state of Montana, 2 of which are Missoula County residents. So we're urging people to follow CDC's recommendation and take precautions. So pre-cut romaine lettuce, those pre-packaged salad mixes, if they have cut romaine in them, don't consume them. If you have them in your fridge, toss them out, even if you've already started consuming them and you don't have symptoms.
Johnson described the effects that E. coli bacteria can have on the human body.
It's a particularly dangerous type of bacteria. 1 to 2 days after you've eaten something that's contaminated with it can cause severe abdominal cramping, diarrhea. It can lead to some very severe complications, especially in the elderly, maybe the very young, up to kidney failure, sometimes death. So it is a very serious pathogen that people need to take cautious with.
Nationwide, there are more than 50 cases across 16 states with at least 29 hospitalizations. The investigation on the state and national level is ongoing. The number of cases is expected to rise. There's an additional suspected case in western Montana awaiting confirmation at the state laboratory. Results are expected by the end of this week. The mayor of the town of Harlem, Montana, has ordered the evacuation of a handful of homes threatened by flooding. Mayor K.M. Hansen said yesterday's order affects about 4 homes surrounded by water north of the railroad tracks. He says another 3 or 4 families have already evacuated, and he wanted the others to leave while they still can. Hansen says the rest of the town of 800 near the Fort Belknap Indian Reservation is not threatened. He sent a notice to residents that there's a potential for flooding from the Milk River in the near future, though he said he's never seen the river's floodwaters actually reach town. Spring runoff from a near-record snowfall has swollen streams in northern Montana, creating a flooding emergency in 7 counties and the Fort Belknap Reservation. Missoula's 3 county commissioners met with the City Council's Committee of the Whole yesterday to get updates from county officials on issues that affect the city and the county. First to report, Sheriff T.J. McDermott provided an update on the progress of the jail diversion plan.
We've added additional positions related specifically to monitor and review our inmate population, identified low-risk, nonviolent, non-dangerous offenders, and then work with the courts, prosecutors, defense attorneys, and other stakeholders to divert those folks from jail into treatment or supervision programs.
Also appearing before the combined meeting was Adrian Beck, director of the Office of Emergency Management to discuss the Community Wildfire Protection Plan.
One of the things that we have in this plan is an update to the definition of the wildland-urban interface to make it maybe a little bit more understandable for people where their risk is relative to wildland fire. But also, we have an updated hazard assessment map that I think is very compelling and that the public will enjoy looking at to determine what their risk is.
Beck said before the fire season begins, though, Missoula County officials have to deal with potential flooding this spring. She said there is record snowpack in the hills and on the mountains that will impact the Clark Fork Valley Basin in particular. The Montana Institute for Tourism and Recreation Research has published the results of a study of non-resident tourism in the state last year. According to researcher Kara Grau, it was a good year.
So overall, it was a good year for tourism in terms of visitation and total amount spent. We had an increase of just 1% in the total number of visitors. It went up to almost 12.5 million individual travelers. But even though it was just a 1% increase in the number of travelers, it was a 10.8% increase in spending.
There was actually a drop in the amount of money spent on retail sales. Grau says people appear to be spending their money differently.
Overall, their expenditures on outfitter and guide was higher than their expenditures on retail sales. And that is a pretty new thing. Generally, retail sales are higher up. So I do find that interesting. It seems to be kind of following along with the trend that people are more interested in buying experiences than they are in buying things.
Grau said that although it was a good year for tourism in the state, it could have been an amazing year if the state wasn't hit by an intense fire season. She says it's likely that Montana missed out on 800,000 tourists and up to $240 million in non-resident spending because of the fires and the smoke. And the mount of a grizzly bear that in 1956 mauled a man to death has been made a memorial for the victim. The Great Falls Tribune reported yesterday that the grizzly killed 29-year-old Kenneth Scott while he was hunting with friends near the Flathead River. The grizzly was killed by the hunting party after the attack. The stuffed bear was on display for more than 50 years at the Wildlife Diorama at Hobbyland until it closed, and Lithia Motors bought the building. Lithia General Manager Mark McCarthy said he decided to donate it back to the community of Fort Benton after learning of its significance. The bear was delivered to the Fort Benton Montana Museums and Heritage Complex, and an exhibit is expected to be in place this summer. Our News Talk time now, 6:12.
Newstalk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station. Mostly sunny skies today with our high temperatures in the upper 50s and low 60s. Tonight, overnight lows will drop to the freezing mark. Solid sunshine again on Friday with our highs near 60. Isolated showers on Saturday. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for NBC Montana.